Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Perla Martinez. I serve as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Administrator for the Franklin County Board of Commissioners. Today on this Lunch and Learn, we will be highlighting and discussing World Youth Day, which is on July 15th. This day became a recognition back in 2014 by the United Nations in order to highlight all of those experiences and the importance of youth and providing them with opportunities for employment since early on in their education, highlighting those contributions they can provide to society. Today, for this particular lunch and learn, I will turn it over to my guest so he can introduce himself, and then we can learn more about this and the work that his organization does. John?
Harla, thank you so much, and my gratitude to the Franklin County Commissioners for having this lunch and learn, and to your office there, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. Thanks for having this conversation. It's so relevant of how it is that our youth are becoming workforce ready. And really at no more important time in our history because, and especially here in Franklin County, of the continued expansion of economic growth, business growth, and education growth. So this is so timely, and again, thank you so much. My name is John Hambrick, and I serve as a work-based learning coordinator with the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio. And those unfamiliar with an Educational Service Center, we are a part of the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. There are over 50 ESCs throughout the state of Ohio. Here in Central Ohio, for the ESC of Central Ohio, we support our school districts. We serve over 30 school districts in the region. We are in 8 counties, including Franklin County. And of those 30 plus school districts, 17 of those districts are right here in Franklin County. And you can kind of imagine the outer belt starting up north in Worthington, going around to Westerville, into Gahanna, Reynoldsburg, go down to Canal Winchester, go south to Hamilton Local, our friends in Grove City at Southwestern, Hilliard, Upper Arlington, Dublin, and then in the heart of our city, Columbus City Schools and Whitehall. So, we really have that opportunity to support our districts, and not only just as a comprehensive schools, regular schools, but we also have career tech centers here in the region with Columbus City Schools at Fort Hayes and Columbus downtown, and then at Southwestern with the Southwestern Career Academy, all that career technical education happening here in Franklin County, getting those students ready for work. And those unfamiliar with the role of an ESC, we are so fortunate. We have former superintendents, former curriculum developers, treasurers, educators, administrators that are providing professional development to help superintendents become superintendents, administrators to become administrators, and educators to become better educators and administrators. We also support our local schools. We have teachers in the schools. We have our own schools to help support our students throughout the region. And we have a really cool HR function where we hire substitute teachers and then deploy them throughout the region. So of the over 3,000 substitute teachers that the ESC employs, when you see a substitute teacher at Hilliard or Gahanna or Westerville, that's really an ESC employee. So our resources are pretty deep, and in those school in particular, gosh, when you've got educators, you've got transition specialists to help some of our special needs students, those on IEPs, just to help them be a better student. Oftentimes that's an ESC employee. So all things education through us. And then several years ago, they started kind of a workforce development initiative through the College of Career Success. And I was brought on board 4.5 years ago, really is as this work-based learning coordinator to help bridge business and industry, economic development into our K-12 ecosystem. And that's really when I say ecosystem, even the early career awareness in our elementary grades. We think about our middle schoolers when they're doing field trips and that career exploration. And then really relevant to this topic today, that workforce readiness in the high schools, whether that's, getting educators connected with employers, getting employers inside the classrooms, but maybe more importantly, really getting students out into workforce, out in job shadows, internships, pre-apprenticeships. We're going to talk a lot about that a little bit later on here, just to help get our students ready, because regardless of a student's path after high school, whether they go into 2-year, 4-year, education or credentialing or certification, or if they choose to join one of our fine military services in one of our branches, eventually they're coming back to workforce. So, all things lead there. And so really, what can we do while they're in the K-12 system to help for that readiness, that experience, that exposure, and that opportunity to know, hey, I think after I'm done with whatever that pocket of time is post high school graduation, I'm going to be ready for workforce, however that looks. So our ESC, of the 50 plus throughout the state of Ohio, we are fortunate to serve over 225,000 students here in the region, making us probably the largest serving ESC in the state. And we are just so fortunate to be at the forefront, to be that resource with our school districts, with our educators, and for our students.
Thank you
One of
so
the,
much for that.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, John. Thank you so much for that. I just wanted to interject here a little,
Yeah.
and just uh, highlight all the important work that your organization does, especially as such a support system to the school districts in a variety, right? And I just wanted to mention that because a lot of people probably don't know about the ESCs and the importance of the work that you do behind the scenes to support our school district, especially in times like today where there's a sometimes a shortage of teachers, of substitute teachers, of people out in the field wanting to do this. Right? So I just wanted to highlight and just uplift. But yeah, go ahead.
Amazing. Thank you. And you're and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I think one of the things that why people may not know a lot about the ESC is, to your point, Perla, we're behind the scenes. We're doing what we can to make sure our school districts do exactly what they're intended to do, and that is to educate, uplift, and develop our youth. And so we're kind of a mechanism behind the scenes to help our districts and our educators do just that. So thank you for that. I'd like to highlight a couple of things. One of the exciting times here at the ESC is we are involved, our College of Career Success Department, involved in a U.S. Department of Education initiative called the Career Z Challenge. The U.S. Department of Education launched a couple of years ago now this Career Z Challenge initiative on how they can identify and better develop systems, regional systems, to help these educational entities around the country to provide better, equitable access to work-based learning in their region. And so the ESC, we raised our hand for sure and said, hey, you know what? We think we're doing pretty good work. We would like to be able to do even better work, and we'd like to be a part of this Career Z Challenge. And fortunately, we were awarded to be a part of the initial 100 educational entities around the country to help develop and better support our students for work-based learning. Uh, and so, what is work-based learning? That's kind of a lot of words to really say, hey, this is an opportunity primarily for high school students to get into a workplace to better develop work readiness competencies and a skill competency. And they can do that at the job site. And we know from COVID, we've had to do learning virtually and remotely. We can also provide work-based learning remotely as well, if needed. And then really a lot of schools are structured where they can do a school store. They can do things inside of the school to help students have this preparedness for work-based learning. And so the ESC has said, hey, a part of this Career Z challenge, we identify, not only do we want to say that these systems are going to be more equitable, but equitable for whom, right? So, not all of our residents are equally resourced. So we recognize that, and so we identify, hey, who in our community could better benefit from equitable work-based learning, are low income residents, right? Our students there, our students that are involved in foster care. Our foster youth sometimes are really, they're part of a system, and sometimes we identify that system could be better, and so we want to provide better access for our foster youth. Our varied abilitied students, those on IEPs, those that have disabilities seen and unseen. We want to be able to provide better access to work readiness and work-based learning. And we also know our justice involved students, and a growing population here in Central Ohio is our English language learners. We know that their journey has brought them and their families to Central Ohio, but they may not have that immediate access that a long-term resident would have to work-based learning, maybe because of a language barrier, an understanding of how some of these systems work. So it's our goal then to help identify these populations and then to better serve them and the systems around them, and whether that's in school, our business and industry partners, our economic development partners, like, hey, this is how we need to uplift them. And so with this work, we've created a community of practice to say, hey, those that need to reduce barriers, whether again that's language barrier, transportation barrier. We've identified ways to help better bring those connections together. And also, I want to talk a little bit more about not only are we helping our students become more workforce ready, but our educators. Our educators here in our region and across the country, they're amazing. They choose, to come into a classroom and support our students on a regular basis. But you know what they know? They know education, but they may not always know workforce. So what can we do to help train educators to be better informed especially our emerging businesses here in Central Ohio? And I'll talk a little bit about that more, some exciting initiatives happening. So this Career Z Challenge, we're super excited. We recently submitted some paperwork from this year. We started with 100 educational entities from around the country. So we've partnered with folks in New York, Chicago, Memphis, Idaho, all around the country. And of the initial 100, we're down to 77 entities still supporting this. And we are all vying for the final 10 groups that'll be picked to go to year 3. So we'll find out a little bit later on. I'll update you if the ESC of Central Ohio is chosen as a finalist to be a part of 10 groups across the country to help continue to support these ecosystems for equitable work-based learning. So in that Career Z Challenge, we identified those partnerships that are so key to helping work-based learning happen for our students. And none other than our partners right here in Franklin County through the Franklin County Job and Family Services AMP program really rose to the top. Yes. And for those that may not be familiar with AMP, AMP is a great acronym: Achieve More and Prosper. How do we get our 14 to 24-year-olds, how do we get them better workforce ready? How do we get them credentialed? How do we get them ready to meet the challenge of our business needs? And then how do we get them employed through that? So Franklin County, oh my gosh, there's such a strong program with AMP throughout the region. And two particular organizations really have partnered well with the ESC through AMP, and that's Goodwill Columbus and Lead the Way Learning Academy. Both of those training providers through AMP, they are called in-school or providers. So Goodwill, as an example, emerged themselves and embedded themselves in several of our districts around the region to help with credentialing. Get our high school students ready through credential, whether that's through a customer service credential, because a lot of our business and industry is retail focused and customer service focused. So Goodwill has just been an incredibly rich partner to get those students and not only with those students getting these credentials to be workforce ready, but it's helping them graduate. The state of Ohio has graduation requirements where they need to make sure they get their hours in. You know, they get their math, their English, their history in, but they also need to have a competency component. And if they aren't really good at standardized tests, then they can earn industry recognized credentials to help them with that competency demonstration. And then a third bucket for graduation are graduation seals. And we find some parallels to help complement when they get industry recognized credentials to get graduation seals. I don't want to get too far in the weeds on that. That's a lot of English or education vernacular in there. But as we continue with the AMP partnerships, Lead the Way Learning Academy, under the leadership of Anthony Murphy, has been excellent. Not only are they embedded in districts around the region and around the county, they're helping them be, workforce ready and helping promoting pre-apprenticeships. And this is such an exciting model to get our youth workforce ready. A pre-apprenticeship is something that's recognized by the state of Ohio. It is something that helps promote industry recognized credentials. It is something that helps students become workforce ready. It helps students gain a skill or a competency, is kind of the language that they use with registered apprenticeships and recognized apprenticeships. And then it gets them that experience directly with an employer. And so we actually, for the first time 2 summers ago, did a summer pre-apprenticeship with students participating with Lead the Way Learning Academy in construction, in engineering, and in transportation. And we continue to do more pre-apprenticeships with schools, with partnering with Lead the Way Learning Academy. And these students, these high school age students, generally juniors and seniors, are having great success. One, helping them with their educational achievement, but then also helping them be prepared workforce readiness wise, and then be ready to maybe even have a job post pre-apprenticeship because of that relationship. And we found, Perla, that pre-apprenticeships across the region are so instrumental in getting students exposure to different employers, as well as get them ready for those different employers. So
Well,
as I
and
mentioned, yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry. I do want to interject here also, in regards to this apprenticeship program, but because I think it's so amazing the work that you are doing in this space, especially, um, because, and I have a follow-up question, but just wanted to, it gives students the skills that they need for these in-demand jobs after high school graduation, but it also, I mean, it is a response to the economic needs of local businesses and their communities, right? So it's almost like a two-way, like, uh, street here. It's a great partnership because it both helps the students and their families, but also helps the local businesses and their communities. And there's just so much growth there that happens in both, right?
You are absolutely correct. It is really a win-win-win situation. It's a
Mm-hmm.
win for that student in their workforce readiness, exposure, their graduation, and then it's a win for that employer because they have that opportunity to to develop their future workforce. They have that
And
experience with them. Yes.
right, and they don't necessarily have to go to college right afterwards. This is enough workforce or like um, workforce exposure to them to be able to help them go into a trade or anything that doesn't have to be college specific, right?
You are absolutely correct. I think one of the part of our language for so long has been that once a student graduates high school, they go to college, or they go to workforce, or they go into the military, right? I think these days it's really, we change the word or out and put the word and, you know, they graduate high school, they go into workforce, and they continue their education. And really continuing that education is a credential, is a certification, and it could eventually also include a 2-year or 4-year degree. But ultimately, it's inclusive, right? We don't have to just put people into buckets of college or workforce, right? No, not these days. And with the employers and the systems that we have these days, so many employers are hiring while in high school or right out of high school, and then paying for students to continue their education. So I mentioned, the pre-apprenticeship. When students finish a pre-apprenticeship, they could also then continue into a registered apprenticeship. And we think historically, just as you'd mentioned, skill trades, right? Go into construction, go into electrical trade, go into pipe fitting, go into plumbing. When they finish that, if they choose to do that, and they finish usually a 4-year track in a registered apprenticeship, they walk out with an associate's degree also. So it's absolutely that. It's workforce, and it's continuing their education, and it's continuing, their skill gain, and whatever that might look like. So it's just absolutely, and the great thing is it's not just our skilled trades that are doing that. Our hospital systems, they are absolutely hiring high school students now. They're absolutely hiring students right out of high school that don't necessarily have all of the skills yet, but they're willing to invest in those students across all of our hospital systems, right? Because they just know that as our population grows in Franklin County more, with our English language learners, we aren't necessarily growing by birthing more people. We're growing by adults coming in and adults bringing families in, and so they know that they need to better um, identify a process with those high school students and our middle school students, because those two are our workforce, right? So it's a great process for employers as they're bringing them in, and then continuing to educate. And I mentioned, those pre-apprenticeships. I think one of the things, with pre-apprenticeships, um, is that we have, again, they're state recognized, right? So they lend credibility with employers that are working with students, and it lends credibility because the students are benefiting with their graduation rates by participating with pre-apprenticeships. And these pre-apprenticeships, as I mentioned, not necessarily just skilled trades like construction, but culinary. We're diving into that. I mean, our great partners in City Barbecue and Cameron Mitchell, they need future workforce. And they've identified, hey, if we do pre-apprenticeships in culinary while kiddos are still in high school, that's our future workforce. And I'll be honest with you, it was restaurant that brought me to Central Ohio, um, back in the late 90s. So that holds a special place in my heart. We have, pre-apprenticeships in the electrical, whether that's union or non-union, transportation. We're so fortunate to have Central Ohio Transit Authority, CODA, here in the region. And they are huge advocates of registered apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships. And our other transportation partners like Performance Columbus, right? Car dealerships. We need to make sure our vehicles are well maintained, right? So they identify too, we need to partner and participate in pre-apprenticeships. Engineering, information technology, and we have some really exciting developing pre-apprenticeships. One, the ESC with Central Ohio has partnered with Ohio Department of Higher Education, and we have just been approved. I mean, we have just been approved to have a K-12 educator registered apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship because we need more educators, right? As we have kiddos that are coming up, we need to make sure that we have that pipeline. And then, and really exciting news, Aspire Workforce, formerly known as the Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio, a great workforce partner here in the county. They are developing a medical assisting registered apprenticeship to help get more into healthcare. But also and this was just announced, those tuning in today may have seen the headline in Business First today of the $4 million apprenticeship grant that Aspire Workforce was just awarded to help grow and promote more registered apprenticeships. And so then that trickles down into our pre-apprenticeships. And again, through the Educational Service Center's lens, that those are our high school kiddos that are going to benefit from this partnership and infusion of more resources to get our community workforce ready. And that's just been it was great news to hear that we were awarded, and rightfully so. I mean, gosh, it's almost been a year now, right? That the White House recognized Columbus as a workforce hub nationally. So they know that we've got a lot going on in the region, and they need to, we're getting resources to help support that workforce readiness component for Central Ohio. And so I just highlighted a little bit on these pre-apprenticeships, and I want to touch on some key industry sectors that the ESC of Central Ohio is dialing in on. I think if one thing of our existing population, we know that we have high healthcare needs for our existing population and our aging population. So through the Governor's Office of Workforce Transformation, they've identified a program called Industry Sector Partnerships. And that's where multiple businesses come together and have a unified messaging on promoting that particular industry. So it's about 2 years now through, again, Aspire Workforce, formerly known as Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio, became an industry sector partnership with our healthcare providers in the region. And so we have now the Healthcare Career Collaborative of Central Ohio. So that's our 4 hospital systems: Mount Carmel, Nationwide Children's Hospital, Ohio Health, Nationwide, and also Ohio State Medical Center, along with 2 providers, Primary One Health and Central Ohio Primary Care. So if you go to your family doctor, they're probably a part of the COPC network. But those 6 organizations came together and said, hey, we need to help develop our future healthcare workforce. And they identified 5 key occupations. They're like, hey, of all the jobs across healthcare, these are the 5 that we think we need most. We need more registered nurses. We need more medical assistants. We need more respiratory technologists that are in the hospitals. We need more radiological technicians, so those that are taking x-rays and sonograms and things like that. And we need more surgical technicians. So, our 4 hospitals, they do a lot of surgeries, and they need those surge technicians. So those 6 came together, and then in partnership with the ESC of Central Ohio, we hosted last March our first hands-on healthcare event. And Perla, it was so exciting. What we had were those 6 entities, funneling 20 and 30 professionals into each of those occupations. And we had a hands-on event for over 1,100 high school freshmen. And we hosted it at the convention center, and it's really strategic on this workforce readiness portion for freshmen, because if we were trying to talk to a high school senior, they may already know what they're going to do post graduation. But as a freshman, excuse me a moment. Well, I'm about to sneeze, and so we decided to focus on freshmen because now, as they see these different experiences, these different occupations, they can change their educational trajectory through the rest of their academic career in high school, than to be ready to go into one of those occupations post graduation. And I'm happy to say that with this healthcare career collaborative of Central Ohio, we're going to have another hands-on event, and we're going to do it at the end of February. And this year, it's not a one-day event; it's going to be a 2-day event, because it just was so successful this past year that it's really going to have the opportunity to get more students across the region to experience opportunities in healthcare. Another emerging industry sector for us here at Central Ohio is construction. I mean, you can't really look across the landscape of Central Ohio and across Franklin County and not see a crane, right? Not see construction companies coming in and either building something new or changing something to meet the current need of business and industry. So this October, we've got our National Association of Home Builders, our Building Industry Association, BIA of Central Ohio, and National Association of Remodeling Industry, NARI. So, those folks that go in and just remodel homes, those 3 organizations are coming together for a one-day event called Central Ohio Build My Future. And that is going to be focused on getting our region's juniors and seniors for that similar type of hands-on interactive labs, interactive career exploration for potentially jobs right then and there, and then jobs once they graduate high school. So construction continues to be such a predominant, and modern manufacturing and predominant industry sector. And then, another one, it's so funny how so many different organizations, whether they're selling a product or they're making a product, they rely so heavily on information technology. And thank goodness today, we are Zooming together. We are on Facebook Live, and it's really that technology that is helping support that. And so the state of Ohio, 4 years ago, created this program through the Governor's Office of Workforce Transformation called the High School Tech Internship Program. And it's to encourage Ohio employers to hire future technologists, high school kiddos, into an IT role. And initially it was throughout the summer, and then be eligible for incentives from the state for hiring those high school tech interns. The program has evolved, and this year the state has said, "Hey, look, you know what we need to do is we're just going to regionalize how we do our high school tech internship." And so we have 6 economic development regions. We're going to have 6 intermediaries. So the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio, fortunately, we were awarded intermediary status for a high school tech internship. And so we're covering not just Franklin County, but the 11 counties of our economic development region. And I'm happy to say that, throughout the region, we have over 200 high school students deployed across school districts, business, and industry right now in either a help desk role, cybersecurity role, a web development role, um, automotive technician role, but not wrenching. It's the computer talking to the automobile, right? Because of the advancements. We need that technology understanding and future training. And so of those 200 interns across the 11 counties, we have over 120 here in Franklin County with this rich experience in the high school tech internship. So we know that these experiences, as you had mentioned earlier, help prepare our students. And so post graduation, it can be, hey, I'm going to be hired and I'm going to go to college, continue, whether that's in a computer science opportunity or engineering or whatever that looks like for them. But also stay tethered to the relationship with that business that they had that internship experience with during high school. It's such a rich and cool experience for that. Um, and as the ESC continues to develop these opportunities for students, we've identified not only do we need to help our students, but we need to help our educators. So I want to share two really cool things about that. One, um, this year was our second year of our Careers to Classrooms Educator Workforce Boot Camp. And so this year we had 48 educators across the region. We had them for a full week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and they were deployed across 8 of our industry sectors. These educators went into construction, modern manufacturing, healthcare, information technology, supply chain and logistics, bioscience, energy, and transportation. So they got a hands-on, immersive, interactive experience across these industry sectors so that then they can go back into the classroom and they can share what they've learned. Because a part of this careers to classroom experience of being immersed, then they created a lesson plan, or they created a project or a process on how they were going to then share what they learned and what they experienced, and they presented that to their peers, to their fellow educators across the region, and so rich in partnership with the Columbus Chamber of Commerce, Ashland University, and support from AT&T Foundation and Ingram White Castle Foundation. That there are a lot of organizations understanding the need to help encourage our educators to be messengers. NiSource, also Columbia Gas, such a great partnership to help these educators learn more, to help students. They're like, students come to the students, to educators and in the classroom, like, I don't know what I want to do. Well, let me tell you what I experienced. Or they identify that student has a certain knack for, exploration or tinkering. So now they've had that experience. Hey, you know what? You might be really good. Modern manufacturing. I went to Worthington Industries, and holy cow, they're looking for you right now. So they could be those messengers. Additionally, so we had that for those core educators that raised their hand to say, hey, we want to partner with that. But also the ESC, we are facilitators of the Central Ohio Career Readiness Council. And Perla, this is such a cool group. These are our practitioners. These are our work-based learning coordinators, our internship coordinators, our counselors, and some of our administrators that we collectively meet on a monthly basis. We don't worry about county lines. We don't worry about school district lines. What we are doing is we are gathering together as a bunch of practitioners to say, hey, what are you seeing? What are you learning? and how can we sharpen each other's tool belts to be able to share these experiences and then go into take that back into their classroom and into their district. So the ESC, not only supporting that student experience, but we're also promoting and encouraging and developing our educators into this. So, I think one of the things as our folks attending this and are watching this, they're probably wondering, man, there's a lot of cool stuff happening in the region. I want to raise my hand. I want to be involved. How do I get involved? Well, there's a couple of ways. The ESC, as per Ohio Revised Code, every school district needs to have a business advisory council. And the ESC, we can serve as a school district's business advisory council. And an advisory council are K-12 partners, business and industry partners, community partners, government partners, and we meet on either a monthly or quarterly basis. Our ESC of Central Ohio meets on a quarterly basis, bringing together business and industry partners, educational leaders, community leaders to share ideas, learn about what's happening in the region, either economically or emerging industries coming in, so then they can better prepare students for all the cool things we've just talked about. And so, I would hope that the leaders and community members watching and tuning in today, tune into the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio's social media pages, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and we advertise when these business advisory councils are happening. And that they too then can be a contributor to our business advisory council to help K-12 become better aligned with business and industry needs and trends that then translate into the classroom so our students become better prepared for business needs and industry trends. Our business advisory councils, sometimes we host them at the ESC, or we go to different business and industry partners and that will host. So we will take this, around the region to be able to provide access. And then my second organization that our leaders watching today can tune into is our Central Ohio Compact. And this is such a strong relationship with the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio and Columbus State Community College. We started the Central Ohio Compact years ago, bringing together K-12, higher education, and business and industry. So we could better develop a pathway of K-12 to higher ed to workforce. And so now under the leadership of Dr. John Kellogg at the ESC and in partnership with Columbus State, the Columbus Compact is alive and well, meeting generally twice a year, once in the fall, once in the spring, and bringing folks together to, again, better identify the needs and then strategies on getting those needs accomplished for the benefit of our youth. And I think one of the things, we talked a little bit about how the White House has identified Columbus as a workforce hub. One statistic came out recently of the last compact and of the workforce hub meetings is that we need engineers in the region. We need over 5,000 engineers throughout the region as not only, Intel develops into the community, but Honda and our bioscience, Amgen, and other organizations coming in. We need those folks that have that engineering component. And pardon me, there's a little bit of landscaping going on just outside of my window. That'll just be a moment. But so it's really so exciting that not only as educators are preparing students for workforce readiness, as students are preparing themselves to be ready for the workforce, but with these business advisory councils and the Columbus Compact, it can really bring our community and our leaders together to help promote what our future workforce is going to look like. So I tell you, Perla, we've covered a lot of ground
I
in the last
know.
45 minutes
I
on
know.
workforce readiness and really how our community has answered the call to help bring our students, elevate them to be ready for the needs of business and industry in the region. And I could talk more and more about this, but I just want to say, any questions come up right now?
I have a couple.
Yes.
So what if we have a student who is not currently involved or enrolled in a school that has a career like a career tech academy pathway, and but they are interested in doing whether it's an internship or be exposed to um, some workforce development opportunities in a particular career, especially like skills trade field. What can they do if they are in a school that does not have? Is there any way they can get in touch with ESC or how does that work?
Absolutely. And we've got a couple of strategies around that.
Okay.
One, yes, a student can reach out to their guidance counselor. The
Mm,
student can absolutely reach out. You've got my contact information to be able to share with this. They're welcome to email me, and I can help make those connections. But one of the roles that the ESC of Central Ohio is doing is we are helping school districts that don't necessarily have that strong career technical education pathways. We're
mm-hmm.
helping to identify and establish pathways within those schools. So,
Mm,
as an example, um, we've got a school district, Licking Heights, right there on the border of Franklin County and Licking County, and so much is happening there. They're like,
yeah.
how do we better prepare our students? It's like,
Mm,
absolutely. Heck yeah, let's partner together and go side by side and help put in pathways to help students be ready. And so as an example, they are going to build out an engineering pathway as an example. We've had other districts around the region that have raised their hand to say, how can we do exactly what you just asked, Perla? How can we better put resources together so students that are not necessarily, wanting to go to a career technical school, whether that's Eastern Fairfield Tech Center, or Tolles, or Southwestern, or Fort Hayes, how can we keep them in our school and help them develop? So we're helping them with those resources so that student can get that need right there at their own school.
that is very interesting. And you can definitely, and I think you've talked a little bit about it, how the landscape here, I mean, in all the 11 counties that you work with is changing and how your organization is kind of adapting and helping those districts adapt to the needs of their communities. So that is really interesting. You talked about healthcare, we just talked about engineering, and I know there's so many industries that are coming into the Central Ohio region. We talked about Intel, and we know, I think it's Google or Amazon. I think one of them, and I mean, Amazon is very present in the region, but I mean, just kind of like shaping this landscape of the community, and just trying to adapt to that ever-changing model that we are having here in Central Ohio. You mentioned another question. You mentioned supporting students who are, Central Ohio is a refugee resettlement community, has a large refugee resettlement community, right? We take in a lot of asylees. We're a welcoming city. What are some of the efforts you mentioned about helping those students who um, are usually immigrants to this community be placed with workforce opportunities or workforce development opportunities when they're still in high school and middle school? What does that look like for a student whose primary language is not English, for example, or who haven't been exposed to these opportunities? What does that look like when it
Sure,
comes to
it's unique to each student and it's unique to each school.
Okay.
Not all schools are equally resourced.
Hmm.
But what we really try to do, through the ESC is funnel in towards teachers of English to students of a second language.
Hmm.
And so we help those educators become more aware so then they can be messengers um, of opportunity. We have great partnerships with Columbus State as an example, and we can help guide them. Columbus State right now is offering free English language learning classes at their New Albany uh,
Okay.
training center, their accelerated training center. So we provide that. And also, the ESC, this will be the second year of our multicultural career fair. It's going to be, I believe, October 8th this year. It's a significant resource fair that'll help bring together our many cultures and many refugee languages and different needs because our Bhutanese, our
Yeah.
Somali,
Yeah.
our Iraqi,
Yeah.
Ukrainian, they all have kind of their own cultural needs, and then
Mhm.
how to better um, em embrace what those needs are with the
Mhm.
systems that are currently happening, right? And so the ESC is, we've recognized that as our English language learning population continues to grow. So as I mentioned, this is the second year that we will be hosting this multicultural resource fair. And I'm excited to be able to say, hey, folks within these different communities and community centers,
Mhm.
please come out to that. You could Google ESC Multicultural Fair. I'll be able to send you a link also that if, when
Please
we
do.
put this on other resources, they'll have people can click on links to be able to say, hey, I want to be able to learn more. And then this is where they can go. So we recognize that, and we continue to have conversations, and we bring in it's not just the educational lens, right? As education is improving their process for these different languages. I mean, uh,
Yeah.
Columbus City Schools, as an example, over 140 languages are spoken there, and that's
Mhm.
not just to them. I mean, Dublin, Southwest,
Yeah.
they all different languages across the community. Um, but what we're trying to do is help provide the understanding to business and industry also. And so
Mhm.
business and industries, they're raising their hand. And one way I really appreciate a couple of our business partners where they display the cultural flags of the employees that are there. And so
Wow.
yeah, a sense of belonging. And I think
Oh,
of, if nothing else, if even though the language barrier may persist, there's at least the expression of, hey, you are welcome. We you are now a part of our community, and whether that for that employer, you're a part of our workforce. And so we've seen a lot of different initiatives that business and industry is doing in conjunction with education, to help these new community members to feel
yeah.
welcome.
Well, and it's just the whole enrichment part of it, right? They make our communities better. They make our communities more diverse, more cultural, and then they, I mean, contribute to their businesses or any nonprofit organizations or anyone who is an employer, a community partner that is giving them the chance to be part of that.
Absolutely.
So that's great. Well, we have about 5 minutes left. I usually close these out by asking my guests about if they can give me their thoughts on why highlighting something like in this case, equipping the youth with the skills and the work opportunities, um, why is that important? And why do you think we should keep uplifting the work that ESC does, the work that you are doing, and just kind of like an overall message to, the community, the employers, the youth, their parents?
And thank you for that question. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, and to be
Mhm.
able to share the work that I get to do, and the team I get to work with
Yeah.
gets to do on a daily basis. It is the the business and industry partners that are tuning in today and in the future if they watch this, they are living this need on a daily basis of how do we attract workers into their particular business and into their particular industry. So there's a high need. You talk to almost any employer, they're probably top number one or two need is workforce. I need workforce. And so why is this conversation so relevant? Well, our kiddos are the future workforce. And so if we can, at an early age, help prepare awareness, help prepare exploration, because it is equally beneficial to that student to know what they like and to have exposure to things that they don't really care for. We think is, a very common one is healthcare. And it's like, oh, I'm not really a big fan of seeing blood. Okay, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Do you like computers? Would you like to get into the technology component of healthcare? Great, there are needs there, right? And so as we help these students have this exploration, they can take things off the list of okay, I'm no longer interested there. Great, then let's focus on areas that are of interest and of areas of opportunity to develop. And then let's get you into, once you get into high school and you start getting those career readiness opportunities, and that looks real similar of collaboration, teamwork, a sense of belonging, a sense of community, and persistence, grit. These things go across the board, regardless of industry sector preference, right? And so having this readiness component, it's instrumental because not only do we want that for our employer partners, and as economic development continues to raise their hand to bring more industry into our region, um, you know, at the end of the day, these are also our neighbors. Our kiddos coming up, these are our future neighbors, right? And our community collaborators and our community contributors. And so regardless of language and culture and background and barrier, we want this discussion and we want these tools available. So we've got a thriving community, right? And how fortunate are we here in Central Ohio and in Franklin County to have such a rich, thriving community,
Yeah.
while also identifying how can we be better at being a
Yeah.
community, right? We
Yeah.
know that we can do things sometimes just a little bit better, and so we put resources in place and we have conversations and we develop so we can be better. And so I think that's why we continue to have this conversation, because we want things to be better for who's coming up, and those are our kids. Uh,
Mm.
and so whatever I think, our community leaders can do collectively, not just for employment and not just for economic development, but for just, getting our kiddos a better understanding of what's
Yeah.
coming and prepare them for that. And how exciting, do we get to be? And Perla, I am so grateful that you and I have had some incredibly rich conversations on how
Yeah.
to promote for opportunity for our youth through the county and just in our community. So I encourage people to just continue that, and we will continue to thrive as a community.
Thank you so much for that, John. I agree with you completely on your sentiment about it. Um, it's just kind of leaving a better world for youth. And, us of us that have children, whether they're young or older, graduating high school or just in kindergarten, I think it's very important to be able to just like have these opportunities for them out there. And, as we keep evolving and growing and seeing where our needs are and how can we best fill them as a community. So I completely share that sentiment with you. So I just want to thank you for being such a great, contact partner, collaborator in this space. I will be putting some links from the ESC website on probably the comment section on the Facebook video that this will be on, just so people know where to contact ESC. And if you want to put, just mention a couple of your social media links or names, and then the name of the website. That way people know it. Like, where
Absolutely.
can they find you? So yeah, we will do that. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And thank you again so much, John.
Great. Thanks, Perla.
Thank you. Have a great day.